वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। गुरु प्यारी साध संगत जी, we're all sitting here at this conference to discuss the topic of Saint Soldier. And just before me, we've heard a great speech where we learned a lot about Sikh history, the historical aspect of Saint Soldier. And the topic I have been given is the topic of the philosophical aspect of Saint Soldier. That why we have to be both a saint and a soldier. Why can we not be only a saint? Why can we not only be a soldier? But before beginning, I just wish to say one thing. That this is a conference, we're supposed to be giving lectures, but my speech may sound more like a katha, because that is all I'm used to. And before beginning, I just want to ask for all of the Sangat's blessings and for my Guruji's blessing, that I may be able to describe this topic to everybody. And before beginning, I want everybody, including myself, to concentrate on Guruji. And to help us concentrate, let us all repeat together. Let us all say together, Satnam Sri Vaheguru. Let us say it one more time. Satnam Sri Vaheguru. Bhai Sahib ji brought up a shabad from Bhai Gurdas ji's words. They told us how Guru Har Gobind Sahib ji was the one who brought the sword to the Sikhs, and how Guru Gobind Singh, Har Gobind Sahib ji was the one who brought the Saint Soldier to us. But in that same shabad, in that same var, Bhai Gurdas ji said, the Sikhs asked Bhai Gurdas ji a question. The Sikhs asked Guru Har Gobind Sahib ji a question. Puchan Sikh ardas kar, she mehla tak dars nihari, agam agochar satgur bole mukte, suno sansari. They asked the Guru that you brought this new form to us. And Guru Har Gobind Sahib ji opened his mouth and said what? Puchan Sikh ardas kar, she mehla tak dars nihari, agam agochar satguru bole mukte, suno sansar. Kal jug peedi sotiyan, nechur neer usar khulari, jug jug satgur tare avatar. They're saying that I didn't bring this new aspect to us. They're saying that this new aspect of Saint Soldier was brought to us from the very beginning by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Bhai Gurdas ji is telling us this. Guru Nanak Dev Ji came and brought the aspect of Saint Soldier. Bhai Gurdas ji themselves say, Marya Sikha Jagat Vich, Nanak Nirmal Pant Chala. The Guru Nanak Dev Ji came and started this one. Hazuri Sevak Bhai Chopa Singh Ji, he asked Guru Gobind Singh Ji, that Guru Gobind Singh Ji, you started this new panth of Khalsa. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, I didn't start it. Guru Gobind Singh Ji told Bhai Chopa Singh Ji that Bhai Chopa Singh, panth chaleo hai jagat mein Guru Nanak prasad. They're saying that this panth, this Saint Soldierhood that I brought, this Khalsa I brought, I did not bring. Guru Nanak Dev Ji brought it, and through his blessing, it's been brought forward and been shown to the world. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Because how did Guru Nanak Dev Ji start this? Where on one side, Guru Nanak Dev Ji went all over the world, explaining to this world that they're on the wrong path. and the true path to spirituality. At the same time, Guru Nanak Dev Ji also went up to Kota Rakesh. He was an evil spirit who would kill human beings. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji was not scared. He went there and told them what he was doing wrong. Guru Nanak Dev Ji went up to the king whose name was Babur. Where everybody else was scared of this king, Guru Nanak Dev Ji went up to him and told Babur that you are his Zabur. That Babur, where everybody else was too scared to speak to him, to speak in front of him, Guru Nanak Dev Ji went there and spoke up to him. A soldier is not somebody who has a weapon in his hand or her hand. A soldier is somebody when the time comes to speak for the truth, to speak for justice, a soldier is always ready. It doesn't have to be with a sword. It can be with your mouth. It can be through words. And even Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, he kept 2,200 soldiers with him at all times. But I just wish to point out one thing. That yes, nobody physically attacked Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, but those who read Sikh history know that there were 3 attempts to attack Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji. That it wasn't that people were scared of Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, so they did not wish to attack him. There were 3 attempts, but Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji had given Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji a boon. That Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, that anybody who comes to attack you, they will be destroyed before they can come anywhere near you. The power of the Guru's word. And now, heading over from this Sikh history as we move over towards the philosophical aspect of Sikh soldiers. Because when I go out in public, and I'm sure many others here who wear the 5 kakars, they get asked a question from society. Then why are you wearing that Sri Sahib? Why are you wearing that kirpan? Why are you wearing a sword? I get many people from society asking me this question. That if a Sikh is supposed to be a saint, if Sikhism is a spiritual path, a path in which you are to find God, then what is the need of carrying a sword? What is the need of being a soldier? Not even outside, even inside our own faith, people ask me sometimes. That why do we need to be saint soldiers anymore? Today's modern Sikhs, they ask me that if Sikhi says that Gobind Miran ki ehot teri pariya, that this is your chance to meet God and that is your goal in this life, then why do we need to have a sword with us? Why do we need to be soldiers? It's a question asked. And before we answer this question, we have to first split up the two. What is a saint and what is a soldier? If I say the word saint, what are the words? What comes to your mind when I say the word saint? For me, when somebody says the word saint, the first thing that comes to my mind is wisdom, is knowledge, is calmness, is love, is caring. That's what comes to my mind when I think of the word saint. But then, when I say, what comes to your mind when I say the word soldier? And the first thing that comes to my mind when I say the word soldier is I see a picture of somebody who's courageous, somebody brave, but somebody who from the inside is itching to go on the battlefield. And now the question comes, why must we be both? Why can't we be just the same? Why can't we just sit in our room and meditate day and night, day and night? Why do we have to be both? Why can't we be just a soldier? Why do we have to be a saint and a soldier? And to come to show why we have to be both, we have to use an example. We have to use an analogy. The example I wish to use is the example of the Rav and the example of the Sas. A Rav is the sun. Sas is the moon. And we can just look at the history of the sun and the history of the moon. When we read the history of the moon, for many centuries, hundreds and thousands of years, the moon was respected. The moon was worshipped. People in this world used to bow to the moon. In the old days, even in India, they called the moon Jatamama, out of respect for the moon. Hundreds and thousands of years ago, there were even religions that were revolving around the moon. That's who they worshipped. That was their god, the moon. On the night of a full moon, people would even sacrifice animals for the moon. The moon was worshipped for hundreds and thousands of years. People bowed to it. But what happened? That same moon people bowed to, a day came that same human race which was bowing to the moon, a day came where that same human race, they created a spacecraft, a shuttle. And what happened? They took that spacecraft and they landed on the moon, the same moon which many years ago people were amazed with. The same moon people bowed to. Today a day came where that same human race landed on the moon and walked all over that moon. That moon which people knew nothing about, people were amazed with. Now, it was nothing more than just a piece of dirt for those people. They walked all over it. Then they took their flag and they put their flag on top of the moon. What does that mean? If somebody was to come to your land, bring their flag and put their flag on your land, an outsider, what does that signify? What does that signify? What does that mean? To me, if somebody was to come to my land, bring a flag, and put the flag on my land, I would think that this person is saying that he's conquered my land. That this land is under my command. I control this land. It's an amazing story. That very moon that for hundreds and thousands of years people worship, now that moon was nothing. People were walking over it. People were saying that it's my moon. The human race. But now what does the moon signify? The moon is like a saint. A saint is calm. The moon is calm. The moon gives off light, but unlike the sun, it gives off no heat with that light. Not that much heat. It's calm. And the same thing that happened to the moon is what happened to the saints of God. The men and women of God who worship God day and night, the same way that this moon was worshipped for hundreds and thousands of years, hundreds and thousands and millions of years ago in Satyug, the saints of God were worshipped also, just like the moon. People bowed to the saints of God the same way they bowed to the moon. They respected the saints of God the same way they respected the moon. But what happened? As time went by in this dark age, Just like those human beings, they stopped respecting the moon and they started to walk all over the moon. The same way people stopped respecting the saints of God and they started to walk all over them. And we don't have to go too far in history to see. Bhagat Kabir Ji was a saint of God. He remembered God day and night, and what happened? Bhagat Kabir Ji was grabbed. He was tied up with chains. And what happened? Gam Gusain Gahar Gambhir Janjeer Bandh Kar Khare. Bhagat Kabir Ji was grabbed. He was tied up with chains and he was thrown in the middle of the river Ganga. Why? Just for believing in God, for being a spiritual man. Bhai Mati Das Ji was grabbed. He was sawn in half. There's so many examples. We heard earlier about Guru Arjan Dev Ji, how he was made to sit on a hot plate. There are so many examples, but probably the biggest example we can use is the example from the year 1674. When King Aurangzeb, a Muslim, became the king. And King Aurangzeb, he ordered his soldiers to go from village to village to village, forcing the Hindus to change their religion, forcing them to become Muslims. And at that moment, the Hindu priests from Kashmir, they came running to Guru Tegh Bahadur. Many people who talk on stages, they say that they were just Hindu pundits, Hindu priests, but those who did the research, they know that they were not just priests, they were saints. And they were considered some of the highest saints of that time. The saints of Kashmir. And they came with their leader, Kirpa Ram, and they came up to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. They put their hands together and they asked Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, "Eo haath jod keho Kirpa Ram, kat Brahman matan gram. Hamro bal ab reho na kai, hey Guru Tegh Bahadur Rai." Kirpa Ram told Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, the leader of those Hindu saints, told Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji that, "Satguru Ji, we meditated day and night. We spent so many lives remembering God. But right now, we don't have the power to fight off our enemies." It describes the situation of the time. The saints of God, the men and women of God, society was starting to walk over them, just like they were walking over the moon. And the same way that human race, they took their flag and they put their flag on top of the moon to say that this moon has been conquered. The same way society was trying to put their flag on top of the men of God. Society was trying to say that these men of God, these women of God are under our command, are under our control. And for that, we do not have to look too far either. When we look at the story of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj's two youngest sons, what happened? Guru Gobind Singh Ji's two youngest sons, Baba Zorawar Singh Ji and Baba Fateh Singh Ji, were arrested. And you know what happened? Throughout the ancient times, every single king or queen had a religious advisor, a priest or a saint whose duty it was that whenever the king or queen is about to do something wrong, it's that religious advisor's duty to stop them, to tell them what they're doing is wrong. But now the saints of God had become just puppets for these kings. And what happened? Wazir Khan, who had Guru Gobind Singh Ji's two youngest sons arrested, he had a Qazi, a Muslim priest, who was his religious advisor. The Muslim priest knew that according to Islam, according to the Quran, that it is a sin to kill two young innocent children. But still, he knew that the king wanted these two killed, so he still ordered that these two should be killed, and he never spoke up. Because he had become nothing more than just a puppet of society. A puppet for the rulers. And that's where we can see what was happening to the saints. That if we stayed as just saints, if we just sat and meditated, that's what was happening to the saints of God at that time. That's why we could not be only a saint without the soldier aspect. But on the other side, why can we not be just a soldier? Why do we have to be a saint soldier? And the sun, which is the opposite of the moon, represents a soldier. The sun is raging with fire. Just like a soldier from the inside is raging, is itching to get on the battlefield. And now if you tell those same human beings that why don't you try to go walk on the sun? Why don't you try to put your flag on the sun? Why don't you try to do that? And they won't do that. Why? Because they know walking on the sun is out of the question. Putting your flag on the sun is out of the question. But you can't even go anywhere near the sun. And the same way, if you're just a soldier, if you have the weapons in your hand, but you don't have the saintlyhood inside of you, you don't have the calmness inside of you, you're not a soldier, you're a barbarian. Because a weapon in the hand of somebody who is not spiritual, somebody who cannot distinguish the truth from false, that weapon will be abused. And that is why we cannot be just a saint or just a soldier. But now, the question comes that that's fine. We have to be a saint and a soldier. But how can we be both? How is that possible to be a saint and a soldier in one? Because a saint is supposed to be somebody who's calm. But a soldier is not calm because a soldier is itching from the inside to go on the battlefield. Because Satguru Ji has said that a soldier's ardas, a soldier's prayer is this, that Hey Rav, Hey Sat, Hey Karna Nit, Meri abhay binti sun lijai, aur na magat ho tumse kach. Chahat ho jit mein sui kijai, shatran se adhiran Peter, juj maro to saj. That that's the prayer of a soldier, that I want to go on the battlefield and die fighting for the truth. Is it possible that when a saint is supposed to be saying in his mind, Na ko vairi nahe begana, sagal sang humko ban aaye, that a saint is saying that I don't see any enemies. I see God in everyone. But a soldier cannot do that. Because when a soldier goes on the battlefield, he has to distinguish two sides. A soldier has to know who's on his side and who's on the other side. He has to put a difference. He has to distinguish between the two. So is it possible to be a saint and a soldier inside one? And to find the answer to that, because if I give my own answer, somebody might believe me, somebody might not. But if we ask Bhai Gurdas Ji, what does Bhai Gurdas Ji say? Bhai Gurdas Ji says if you want to know what a Sikh is like, they go, a Sikh is like water. They go, you can learn how a Sikh is by watching water. They go, a Sikh has two sides. Saint, soldier, water has two sides also. Bhai Gurdas ji said, Para het tarti hai. They're saying that under our feet is the tarti. Under our feet is the land, meaning land is humble. Land is always underneath us. Bhai Gurdas ji said, Para het tarti hai, tarti het vasanda pani. But they're saying even lower than the land is water. Water is underneath the land. Meaning water is humble. Water is always making itself lower than everything else. And they're saying that's how a Sikh should be humble. They're saying if I take a glass of water and I pour water right here, the water will always flow down. Water does not flow up naturally. Water always goes down the slope. And they're saying that's the same way a Gursikh should be. A Gursikh should be always going down, lower than everybody else, having humbleness inside of him or herself. Para het tarti hai, tarti het vasanda pani, pani challe nivan no, nirmal sheetal swat prani. And they're saying the water is always doing seva. That with water, look at all the great seva water does, the service water does. With water we clean our body. With water we quench our thirst. With water, all of that is done. It's used for seva, and they're saying the same way a Gursikh should always be ready to do seva. That's what we need to learn from water. The saintly side of water. How it always goes down and how a Sikh should live his or her life. But then Bhai Gurdas ji says, what about the other side of water? They go, if you take water and put water in a pot, and underneath that water you put some wood and you light that wood on fire, what happens? They go, water doesn't stay cold anymore. Water starts to get warm. It starts to boil. The water is a Gursikh. But what is the fire that is underneath a Gursikh? What does the fire signify? The fire is injustice. When a Sikh sees injustice happening in this world, a Sikh doesn't stay cold anymore. A Sikh doesn't go down anymore. A Sikh starts to boil from the inside when he sees injustice happening in this world. Injustice against his own religion, but not just his own religion, but injustice against other religions also. Guru Tegh Bahadur ji saw the Hindu religion being bullied. He could have said, it's not my religion, I'm not going to do anything. But no, he saw that it was someone being bullied and he went there and gave his head. And when the fire gets hotter and hotter, the water gets hotter and hotter, it starts to boil, and then water doesn't go down anymore. The saintly side of water, water flows down. But the soldier side of water, it turns into steam and it goes up and up and up. It doesn't go down anymore. You can try your hardest to make steam go down, it won't. It'll go up and up. Even nowadays they make pressure cookers, boilers, but they've left holes in them so the steam can get out. Steam goes up and up and up. And the same way a Sikh, until when he sees injustice happening, until he gets rid of the injustice, until he gets rid of the evil rulers, or until he himself gives his life up on the battlefield, a Sikh just keeps on rising, rising and rising, fighting against that injustice. And just through that, that's how a Sikh must be. Just like water has two sides, a Sikh has two sides. But there's one thing that I saw in the introductory flash video, it said that a Sikh is a saint first, and if necessary, a soldier. But that should be rephrased, that a Sikh is a saint first, and if necessary to be a soldier, not if necessary. A Sikh is a soldier. And in our lives, we have to learn how to balance the two. And we can learn that from Guru Har Gobind Sahib. Because everybody knows Guru Arjan Dev Maharaj Ji had the Harmandir Sahib, the golden temple as it's known over here, built. And Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji had Akal Takht Sahib built across from it. And that signifies Miri and Piri, signifies religion and politics. But one thing that you can learn, because our gurus were not that simple, our gurus made everything for a reason. One thing that you may not know of is that when the head priest of Akal Takht Sahib sits inside Akal Takht Sahib, in his position, when he is sitting, when he looks up, what is the first thing he sees across when he's sitting at the place which is made for the head priest of Akal Takht Sahib? When he looks up, the first thing he sees is a huge window. And through that window, he sees Harmandir Sahib. Through that window, he sees Sangat coming inside. Was it just a coincidence that our Guru made it that way? Satguruji made that on purpose, so when the head priest of Akal Takht Sahib sits there, he looks up, he sees the window. Through the window he sees Harmandir Sahib, he sees the Sangat coming. So when he realizes one thing, because what is the head priest of Akal Takht Sahib? You can say that he is the head saint soldier. Because the Khalsa is an army. Khalsa Akal Purkh ki fauj. Khalsa is God's army. They say Khalsa is God's army. And the head priest of Akal Takht Sahib is the commander, is the general of that army. Any decision that is going to be made, Satguruji has appointed that person in charge of the entire army of Khalsa, in charge of the entire nation of Khalsa, and Satguruji has made it this way, so when he looks up, he sees through the window of Harmandir Sahib and he remembers that even though I'm on the soldier aspect, even though I'm making a political decision, but when he sees Harmandir Sahib, he realizes that I'm making this decision to keep the honor of Guru Granth Sahib. I'm making this decision for the better of the Sikh nation, of the Sikh Sangat, and I'm making this decision to spread the message of Sikhi. So before he makes the decision, he sees. And from that, we need to learn. Because today, there's many Sikhs who say, Sikhi, we don't need to get involved in the politics. We should just sit in our room and do meditation. But that is not a Sikh soul. But then there's other Sikhs on the other side who are always ready to hold protests, always ready to pick up the sword and go for a battle, but they don't have the same side with them either. And that is not a Sikh either. Satguruji says we must be both. And before we ever make a decision, because Satguruji says he gave us this city side, these weapons for one reason. Kal khand behandan, kal kal khandan, atran mandan barbhandan, kuj dand akhandan, tej prachandam, jodh mandan. Jai 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 jakaram, sris uvaram, mantra param. Jai 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 devam. Satguruji says that story many of you may know of. That Kesu Pandit took Guru Gobind Singh Ji up on top of the volcano and said on top of the mountain and said that let's ask Durga Devi for help. And Satguru Ji said, I don't need any Devis. Satguru Ji told them, I don't need any goddesses. My Savior is God, and my Savior is the sword which has been brought to me to get rid of those evildoers in this world. And in ending, there's just one thing I wish to say. That we need to look inside of ourselves. Because sometimes we think that Saint Soldier is just from the outside. But Satguru Ji has said one thing in Gurban. Seva ko doy pale, ek sant, ek Ram, Ram jo data mukt ko, sant japave na. They're saying God is great, but we also need a sant in this world. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj came to this world. And where it's necessary to be a sant, Satguru Ji has said, a sant is that person not who sits in his house and meditates day and night, who goes outside and tells others to repeat the name of God. Aap jape, avre naam japave. A sant is somebody who himself, a saint, is that person who herself remembers God, but tells others to remember too. And that's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj did. They were a saint. Guru Nanak was a saint. Guru Nanak was a sant. Guru Nanak Dev Ji went all over the world and told everybody else the path to God. But before you can become that saint, before you can even go out and tell others what Sikhi is, what God is, others to be a saint, you have to be a saint yourself from the inside. Before you can go out and tell others what God is, you have to find God yourself. Because if you yourself don't know, if I've never been to California and I tell you how to get there, would you trust me? So to be a saint, you must first become a saint from the inside before you can become a saint from the outside and tell others. And the same way, before you can become a soldier from the outside, you must become a soldier from the inside. Because Satguru Ji has said, how do you become a soldier from the inside? Jako har rang lago is yug mein, so kahiyat hai sura, atma jana sagal vasta kar. Jaka Satguru. Satguru Ji said the real soldier is that person jinne. It's with an anana. When it's got an anana there, that means to defeat. So they're saying a soldier is that person who has defeated himself from the inside. Because Khalsa is that person, Khalsa so nirdhan ko paale, Khalsa so dusht ko dale. But Satguru Ji in the final line of that shabd said, Khalsa soe kare jo kare nit jang. Who every single second of his life fights a battle. And that battle is with the 5 evils inside of us. His dehi andar panch chor vase, kaam, krodh, lobh, moh, ahankara, the 5 evils inside of us. Lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. So before we can become a soldier from the outside, we must first defeat those inside. And a cause as that person who every single second of his life fights the battle inside first. First becomes a complete saint soldier from the inside, and then becomes a saint soldier from the outside. Then that's true balance. And basically that is all the time I wish to take of the Sangat today. In ending, we just need to think of one thing. That Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj was a saint soldier. But if somebody from another faith asks you, why are 6 saint soldiers? You can tell them that, look, all the prophets of God were saint soldiers. Sri Ramchandra came to this world where he lived 14 years in exile, meditating on God. He kept his weapons on. And he fought battles. Where Muhammad Sahib Ji, the Prophet of Islam, where he fought, where he was a leader, a prophet, he was also the commander of an army. Where Jesus told others to remember the name of God, Jesus is also a saint soldier, because remember what I said at the beginning? A saint soldier is not one with a sword, but a saint soldier is one who fights with his mouth. Because Satguru Ji, just like Bhai Sahib Ji said before me, Sura so pehchani hai, jo lade ji. Purja purja kat mare, tabu na shate. That a true soldier is that person who, when the time comes, speaks the truth even if his body is cut into pieces, he is killed. And that's what we need to make in our life. In ending, I wish to request from the Sangat that we make it our goal in life to not just go through the formality of Sikhi, but to actually become those saint soldiers from the inside and the soul soldiers from the outside. Only then can we know what truly a saint soldier is. In ending, any mistakes I made, I wish to ask forgiveness from the Sangat, and I want to ask forgiveness from my Satguru Ji. In ending, everybody please put their hands together and let us all give response to my Fateh Ji. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.